here, but he should be. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did a lot with him here at Success, and I know that I don't know if people. Oh, it says he's unable to join. If you've seen his videos or not, he was actually live with us in here last week talking about his new book launch and everything. And I know our audience really loves him, so I'm excited to get him in here in the Success room.
Bam.
Hey, I made it.
He made it, and y'all. You're in Nashville right now.
Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, the area. Yeah, I'm not here in Nashville. There's a
Man.
guitarist. There's guitars on the side over there somewhere. I don't know, but yeah, man, it's beautiful out here. I went down and wandered into downtown and got lost in a whole bunch of like live music and lights. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's how we roll. Everything is a guitar and music for somehow. But man, we were just introducing you, and obviously you're no stranger to the Success audience. But this is actually the first time I've ever gotten a chance to interview you and learn from you. And I think for me, Anthony. Obviously, so your new book is called Identity Shift. I know that you talked with Madison and the Success audience, even just like here recently, about that. But you've gone so far as to say the difference between basically like average people and successful people comes down to their identity. What is identity? Like when you say that word identity, what does it mean? And then my follow-up question is, where do most people find their identity versus where do the ultra performers find their identity?
Great questions. So first thing is I'm gonna solidify it down to a statement, but I will say I'm gonna give you a little bit of like some interesting over top, and I'll bring it down like, oh, that's what it is. So it's funny is whenever I ask you who you are at a neurological level, you'll go, oh, I'm a dad, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a cousin. It'll go off of the things, and it's this, your brain lights up. But there's this place called the default mode network. And the DMN is actually where identity resides. When I ask you who you are, it shuts down. Here's where it lights up. When you stop and just pause and look at life and you see things and you're just kind of passively experiencing something happens, how you judge, how you think, how things go. And it just kind of flows, right? So what happens is it only lights up when you're actively using it. So your identity is who you are when you are not thinking about who you are.
Weird.
It's just in a flow. It's weird, right?
Interesting.
But interesting thing is it shows up in actions, in reactions, in processes, and how I take it. If I believe in something or thoughts, it's this natural thing going on that was pre-programmed, and it's showing up now and based on how we saw things. And then your second question was it how do we actually? What was the part? Second question.
It's like what are the things that people typically put their identity in? Because even when you say who are you? I think a lot of people probably answer that with what they do.
Boom. Yeah. So the thing is our identity is what we have created and identify as. So what's interesting is whenever you look at, say, a mom before she has a kid, was she a mom? Well, no. But then when she has a kid and she spent, nights picking up diapers and cleaning up boogers and wiping poop, God forbid you try and tell that woman she's not a mom. She will eat your face. You know what I mean? So there's this interesting thing that we will start to create something. When you create, it creates you. So there's this flow where the more we lean in and do things, the more we identify the thing we did, which is, it's good and bad, because you do want to have like this positive identification and an ego in an area that is a good thing, because you built something, right? You don't want to like spend time creating it, being a speaker and be like, oh, but I'm not a speaker. Like, no, you've spent time getting great at that. That's who you are. But you also don't want to have this identity where you protect the bad parts that don't let you take insight, or, don't let you, like take risks or take chances in some area that really would light your life up. But you're like, what if I go, what if it's right, the right thing, or what if I fail? So it's this thing where you kind of play this balance of, I know who I am and I protect the parts of me that are beneficial, but I shouldn't protect the parts that aren't. And I should work on those to make them more of like the things where I'm like, hey, I identify with the effort, not always just the outcome.
Interesting. Would you say in that way, identity, it's basically something you create for yourself. Even like you're saying, like you create and then the things you create become part of your identity. But it's like an identity isn't hardwired. It's something that you can choose to manufacture. Basically, it's almost like it's what you tell yourself about who you are.
Definitely to what it stands. This is the weird thing, because there's a great book by Singer. It's called The Untethered Soul. And it says, well, who are you? And it's like, if I say I'm Anthony, it's like, well, okay, what are you? The letter ANTHONY? Like, no, that's how you are. It's this interesting part of us being the watcher and us choosing who we want to go out into the world. And usually that person out into the world is, for the most part, the same person. But there are some differences. But the reality is, yes, you get to choose, like, hey, as a person, watching this person show up, who every time, you know, my partner says something, I get really tight and I get angry and I get argumentative, or you know what? I don't like how I'm showing up there. I think that's something that I should actually adjust and work on, and actually be more receptive to stuff to help the relationship be better. So you can choose in that moment to go, you know what? I'm not going to be that person anymore. I'm going to be more communicative and listen. Or maybe it's at work. You know what? Whenever Susan tells me to do something, I get mad because she shouldn't ask me anything. Go, you know what? Maybe Susan is in that position for a reason. I should respect Susan. So you can make these choices. And then what happens is the more you identify, the less you feel out of character. And Rory, that's the thing, is most people go, oh, I don't want to be out of character. It feels funny. It's odd. And we have this negative connotation of that, when the reality is if this is your character, out of character isn't always down. Out of character can be up to a better character of a human being. It's still going to feel different, but it can move to a higher level. And you should feel out of character when you're improving your life.
So I have a question for you really quick that I think a lot of our audience might be wondering too, but how do you separate identity from circumstance? Because a lot of people take the circumstances in life and use them to say, this is who I am because I've been dealt.
Yeah, this is great. This is actually, so this is what it's called a life mastery loop. It's a framework. I have no pictures nearby. I could show you my computer if you guys want to see it. That's actually I just flip a camera around. You want to do that, or is that too weird? Is that too weird?
I don't know.
I can do it. Here, my laptop is my tripod right now, but here's, because I'm real big on teaching, not just talking about things. I think that's the one downfall to a lot of people, that they go, hey, this is a thought. So I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to show it. And if you guys want people, take a screenshot of this, because then we can talk through it. There we go. Double tap. Hold on. Nope. How to flip it? Flip. There it goes. Okay, you see that? Take screenshot. Screenshot real quick. Okay, we got it. All right, now back to me. So here's how it works. What happens is, yes, based on circumstances. So things happen, and when things happen, we usually have an action that takes place, and from the action that takes place creates an outcome. The outcome will give us our environment, inside and outside. What do I feel inside? What do I see outside of my life? And that tells me who I am. This loop's always running, and so what happens is called the life mastery loop. I have an identity I see myself to be, and from the identity, I have personal beliefs wrapped in that. If I identify as, let's just say, I identify as a great dad, right? My personal belief is I'm a good dad. I do good things, right? So my thoughts are, you show up as a good dad, and you do a damn good job. So whenever I feel something, the feelings go, yeah, you're a good dad. Like, I feel good about that. I take actions that are good dad actions, right? So I take a good dad action, whatever it may be. And then the action creates an outcome. Kids go, yeah, you're a good dad. I go, yeah, and I feel good inside. I say, look at our relationship, right? And then I go, see, I'm a good dad. It loops around. But what happens is, what if I'm a bad dad? What if my identity says you're a bad dad? My beliefs go, no matter what you do, you're not going to be a good dad. Your thoughts go, yeah, man, you suck. Why didn't you be good to the kids? So you feel dark, and then your actions are, get out of here, kids. Stop being loud, right? And the outcome is kids are crying. And then you feel crappy, and you look at like, see, you suck as a dad. It re-ingrains. So the loop's running, but you can break the loop. You can actually shift. So we talk about shift, and this loop will be outside of circumstance to identify. You go in between feelings and actions. We can always take an action opposite of how we feel. We've all done this. We've been like, I don't want to jump off that cliff as a kid because it looks like scary water, but then right? I feel good in the water. Look at this. Or I've been like, I don't want to make that call. Let me make the call. Wow, it went good, right? I took an action even though I felt fearful of it. But here's the thing that happens. When you take the action, bold, against the emotion of like fearful, but a big one, you have a different outcome. It goes, wow, that went well, right? And then the environment's like, oh, look how I feel. Maybe I am a good dad. Maybe I can do good dad stuff. And my kids and I were having a good time. Loosens the concrete of the identity. You go, maybe I can identify differently. And I go, I believe that it's possible. And I think different. I feel like a good dad. I take good dad actions, and now it rolls opposite because I broke that pattern between the way I felt and the action and always having it flow. And I said, I'm going to take an unconfident action and do something different. So that's how circumstance can realign the identity by saying, this is a circumstance, but you know what? Even though I feel this way, I'm going to do differently.
I once had a mentor tell me, they said it's actually easier to act your way into healthy thinking than it is to think your way into healthy acting.
100%.
That reminds me of it. So with your personal story, okay, you were a foster kid. Yeah. You must, and I think when people think of like the NFL, they think of like the physicality of what you have to become. But my guess is that for you, at some point, there had to be there was a story you were telling yourself about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was the mental conditioning that had to, your mental conditioning had to also kind of get to this new place to compete at that level.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your personal story. Like, what did you used to say about yourself? How did you realize that was the thing holding you back? And then what did you change that to start saying about yourself, you know, to where you could
Yeah.
get to where you've been?
I love it. This is good. You're kind of good at what you do, Rory. A good question, dude.
Oh,
So you too, Madison. All love. So here's the thing. I believe that if your identity doesn't match the dream never gets realized.
that's good.
Because if you think about it, if I don't identify, even if I get it, I'll lose it, or I feel like I don't deserve it, right? But when you identify as, hey, I'm the kind of person that plays in the NFL, it works because you operate a certain way. We're like, I'm staying in alignment. We all want to be in alignment, right? So I was at one point in the NFL, rookie year, and I was like, I don't want to be here. I want to quit. I don't think I'm good enough. I quite literally called my coach. I called my agent. I called my wife. I'm like, I'm going home. And so, in some roundabout way, God put someone in the right place at the right time that stopped me. But I was like, I'm out of here. And it's the interesting thing. It was because I felt like I didn't deserve this level of success. It was very weird. I didn't quite know why. And I had to have somebody else frame it up for me differently. And what happens is we are really good at seeing all the negative parts, and we're pretty poor at seeing the positive parts. It's like we're always being like, you know, self-deprecating in a lot of ways. And I don't know why we do it. It's just this weird negative thought cycling that actually takes place. And so whenever we get to those levels, what I had to do for me, I was like, all right, well, I don't feel like this. Well, what do I do? Because I feel like I'm suffering inside. And here is this statement that I love, and I say it repeatedly. People might have heard already, but whenever you have this suffering of I don't feel like, action ends suffering. That's it. And it's not always not always a physical action. It could be a thinking action. It could be like a look in the mirror and go, hey, you're great. You belong. You can do it. And you program the subconscious by talking to yourself. Looks odd when someone's watching, but in here it's special, right? And then you go, okay, great. You deserve great. You can do great things. And I would go out and I would take an action on the field that would align with the place I wanted to go. This is that area between feelings and action, right? So I would go out to the football field and go, look, I don't feel like I've deserved it, but all I can do is just shut off that part of my brain and just roll out and just go full bore this play. That's what I can do. I can't, because if not, I'm going to keep ingraining the negative perpetuating cycle and have that belief of like, see, you suck, dude. So I would go out and just do my thing. And the more you do that, just in those moments, man, you start to give yourself different proof points. That's the thing is, I don't think we always have the proof we need to feel great. And when you can start taking that bold action to give yourself proof, you start believing something different. Just like in the court case, right? I'm gonna believe what you can prove. So if I don't see this, I got to prove it to myself, and I got to take an action to end that suffering.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking a lot about the NFL and everything, and I know that you were also, you know, through foster care and whatnot, and you went through a lot of adversity. And so I'm wondering, what would your advice be to somebody who maybe needs to flip the script on that adversity to take that like identity shift?
Yeah. There's there's like levels of failure that we experience, and I call it failure because we feel like a failure. And what happens is in all of our life, we have these situations where we'll experience something for whatever reason, whether it happened to us or we were part of it and caused this. And we put it too high on the failure spectrum. There's 6 levels. You go abject, which is the end of the world. Nothing can, fix that. It's broken. The pumpkin smash, somebody died, right? Then you have structural. Then you have what's called your glorious, like, hey, these 2 are really bad. And it's called a learning line, I call it. These 3 at the top are so experientially like painful, emotional. We don't even want to talk about it. I want to look at it. I just want to deal with it, drink it away, do things and just distract ourselves. Below the line, you have what's called common. The apology was made for this. You have what's called version. This version wasn't good. Then you have at the very bottom what's called predicted. Now, for a lot of us, when we have situations that happen in the past, whatever it is, we feel like this failure. It's an abject or structural failure. It's the end of the world. I suck as a person. My own mom didn't love me and gave me away. My parents were bad parents. My dad was a drunk. Whatever this is things people experience. They go, because of that, it's all end of the world. It's abject. And I go, no. That version of that human wasn't very good. Right? The version of how you experienced that wasn't very good. But you can always take a lesson from, like, think about the iPhone. I'm on an iPhone 11 right now. It exists because of iPhone 1. And they found out what the bugs were and fixed it and make iPhone 2. A new version kept coming out. And if we can look at life and go, that version of me, what can I extract as lessons to create a better version? Well, now every single thing that's happened in the past or what will happen in the future has a different perspective. I can see it through different lens and go, okay, great. I am not a failure, but that action was a failure, or that person at that level was. Let me do better to be better. And now I can take all the past failures and make them fuel to go forwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you guys are just joining us, we're talking with Anthony Trucks. He's got a new book out called Identity Shift. If you're not following him, click that button in the top left. Give him a follow. Check out what he's up to. We're having this conversation about basically what the results you experience in your life are a reflection of what you believe to be true about yourself. And I think that's what's so fascinating for me, Anthony, is how it's like there's no limit to what your identity can be other than what you decide for yourself that limit is. I think you shared something on a very recent, I think it was your most recent Instagram post that I watched all the way through. It was this concept of normalizing speed. And I really love this. And before we started, I told Madison because, I think, you hear about whatever work-life balance, you hear lots of things about, you should always grind or not grind enough, but your take on it really hit me as nuanced and interesting, which is normalizing speed, which to me, even that concept was an example of an identity shift. Is an example of going, I used to not be capable of keeping up with this, but now I am. But so can you just talk about that concept of normalizing speed, and what does that mean, and why does that apply to so many people today?
Yeah. So I think about like driving in a car. This is where the speed thing comes from. Because at certain speeds, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can handle this. And what we naturally do when things go fast, we go, oh, let me slow down, hit the brakes and slow down. So when I look at life, there's a speed to life that we try to get into, right? And when you start picking up speeds, you feel it, right? Your calendar picks up. You have to switch gears mentally faster. There's more conversation, more inbound emails. There's just more. And all of a sudden we go, and then we just want to, I'll back away. I want to go back to what's called homeostasis. We as humans have what's called homeostasis. There's a level line, and we feel ourselves above or below. We want to get back to it. So when we say, I want to reach big goals, we don't realize that the homeostasis at some point is going to start to feel that. It's going to pick up, and then speed picks up. So people will start making more money. They'll have a bigger team. They'll have more emails. And they go, it's a lot. And I hit the brakes and I slow down because the speed feels funky. Now, here's the thing. That same person will go, I know I'm capable. I have the insights. Why can't I? And what it is we are apprehensive internally to go back to that level, because at that level, there's fear of the speed that I'm not good at handling. So when I say normalize to speed, I'm not saying burn yourself out. What I am saying is when you get there, like I feel speed pick up when the business picks up. I just do, or my life, my kids, right? So I go, okay, I feel this right now. I worked for this. I desired to get here. And at this speed, I can't try to slow down because I will maybe never go back towards the speed, or I'll be, apprehensive to do it again, or I may never know how to get back here. I'll lose momentum. So I say, how can I normalize to this? How can I go, okay, how do I organize maybe my schedule better? How do I find someone to help me or ask for help, which most people don't do? How do I maybe recalculate and recalibrate what speed I really need to go? Maybe you don't need to go 100 miles an hour. Maybe you need to go 95, right? But if you go and say, okay, great, beautiful, this is a speed I can get used to, not slowing down, then what happens, you start to realize like, oh crap, like, well, the people that have what I want, they're going 105 and 110 and 120. They're going faster. But if you look at them, it almost looks easy for a lot of people. And all they did was they went to 100 and didn't hit the brakes. They figured out how to hold the steering wheel, control. They could read a little bit. Okay, good. And then they can go, okay, let me go to 101. Okay, I can normalize. Okay, let me go to 1. And they just keep going. And they don't slow down. It's not a matter of burning out. It's a matter of understanding that there's a difference between overwhelmed and maximized. Overwhelmed means overwhelmed. And I tell them, I have my team, my clients, I'm like, don't use the word overwhelmed around me. Use the word maximized, because maximize says I'm at my current maximum, but my dream might need more. So when I'm maximized, how do I normalize as a maximized state? And that's tools, resources, programs, it's all that kind of stuff. And then once I feel good, okay, now I can press the gas again because I've normalized to it. Your homeostasis has risen, and now your new level of normal homeostasis is up here, and we get rock and roll. And what's crazy, as cool, is when you get to the higher speed and normalize to it, it feels just as easy to maintain as it was down here. That's just how it works.
I mean, it makes me, I think of sports because I never played professionally. I never really even played in college, but I was on the practice squad for basketball in college. And the biggest difference between college basketball and high school basketball was speed. It was just the speed of the game. And I think that applies to business as well. And once you do it for a while, you get used to it. But that, the first time you step on the court with a bunch of whatever college players or pro players, or you get around those people, the very first time, it's a shock to everybody. It's like, whoa, this is a new gear.
Different game.
You do it long enough, you normalize.
It's normal.
You normalize.
That's how it was for me. I love that, dude. That's how it was the NFL. When I went from high school to college, fast. College NFL, faster. It's like, what's going on? Wow, bro. It's just, it's your new norm.
Well, yeah. And I think of, like for leaders, when you're a new leader, you start experiencing all these problems. And when I remember being a young leader, and it was like, oh my gosh, like, why are there all these problems? Like, everything is broken, everything is falling apart. It was like a new speed. And then the longer you're a leader, the more you go, oh, that's just leadership. Like, problems, that's what being an entrepreneur is. Like, it's just constant. It's one problem after the next. And so the things that used to throw you completely, you don't even bat an eye. You don't even expend any emotional energy worrying that they're happening. And you're just immediately into like deal with it mode and move on. And I think what's so powerful about the way you said it about normalizing is it makes you go, oh, I can level up without feeling like I'm going to burn out.
Yeah, it's true. And you have to get to the point of realizing, like, when most of us were operating with this, like, we can see a certain level of speed and go, like, this is how we see our life. It's this problem here. So that's all in the front of our face. We have this problem. It's the problem here. Because we haven't overcome this problem, we don't realize all the beauty on the backside of that. We don't realize the next levels for us, the next aspirations we can accomplish. And so a lot of people are like fighting this problem here, and they're completely unaware of like here's a great analogy. My daughter the other day, she was on her phone, just on her phone like this, and she wasn't aware I was in the room, and she sat down and she laid down and she rolled to where I was this close to her. Phone's here, my face is there. She couldn't see my face. It was the weirdest thing. I wanted to, right? But then she eventually goes, oh, and saw me and freaked out. And I'm like, that's how a lot of us live life right now. There's a problem, here's a problem, here's a problem. And I go, oh, wait, all that stuff's there. Let me figure this out real quick, because that's what I want. So we're stuck here, not even positively aware of all the cool stuff past that.
I love it. Madison, what are you thinking?
I mean, I always love what Anthony has to say, and I'm reading the comments as you guys are talking and everything. And somebody just mentioned if you could please give the name of your book again. And I think that's something that I'd love to bring up, because I know that you just released it and we're all excited.
I am excited. I got a copy because I realize as an author, you're supposed to carry these things with you, right? But you don't always do it. So here's the book. It's called Identity Shift.
Oh, yeah.
Upgrade how you operate to elevate your life. If I see you tomorrow, Roy, which is the plan, I'll get you a copy, my man, which you might already have one. I don't know. But it's and the idea is like I took the book in two directions. One is not two directions, two paths that converge. So one area is like, what's the concept? How to really grasp the identity is, what it means, how it settles in. Other thing is like, how do I make the shift? Because I know some people say, here's the concept, they leave you hanging. I'm like, no, I want to give people like the structure. We have what's called the shift method in our coaching programs. So I want to have people get like the base foundation of what that is, so they can possibly do it on their own, and then be able to get the outcome of like making this shift we're talking about. It may not be a huge one, but it's going to be a good one. And here's the cool thing. We've all done this before. Every single person who's made some kind of success of themselves or in some accomplishment, they've made a shift. The problem is they didn't really know they were doing. They took the long way, the harder way, the more expensive way. But if you understand like, oh, if I do this with tactical precision, you can actually proactively, predictably create an outcome you desire.
What's been your favorite identity shift that you have made, like in your personal life, where it was like, I used to be this, but going forward, I'm going to be this. Like, what's your favorite one for you personally? Like, you
favorite one
redefined.
Personally. Yeah, there was, so I woke up in 2016, January 1st. It is an honest one, man. I'm a very transparent person in the way that I flow. I realize the world needs that. So I was divorced 3 years, at this point, like maybe 2.5 years divorced. I wasn't a very good dad. I wasn't present. I had the business I was running that wasn't doing good, was a good excuse to be away from the kids. At the time, I'm a man of faith. It was a time I was the farthest I'd gotten from my faith since I was like 18. So I had like multiple partners, and I woke up one day and I went and looked in the mirror. And New Year's Day, I was like borderline hungover. Some strange woman And like I got done smoking hookah before, I just looked in the mirror, dude, and it was this absolute overwhelming level of shame. I was like, this guy sucks. I would never want my daughter to be with a man like me. I would never want my boys to be like me. My mom, who had passed away a couple years earlier, would not approve of my God ain't let me into heaven like this. It was just this thing of like, this guy sucks. And it wasn't a matter of what do I do? Because I'd read the books, taken the courses, done the stuff, right? And I realized it's not what you know, it's who you are with what you know. Because who you are will do what you have to do. And so that was the biggest shift internally. And here's what it was. It was this realization first. And then the second stage was like, all right, I got to do something now. I got to take an action. And that was the longest, like, crazy journey of like digging in and asking the most deep, unsettling questions of myself as to why is my marriage falling apart? Like, why did it? Why was I a bad parent? Why is the business suck? Like all these things. I found that I and we are the common denominators in all of our problems. And what that means is either you allow it or you create it. One of the two. And if you take that perspective, you'll give yourself permission to improve. I had to go in deep and figure it all out. In doing so, I took the actions to shift this guy to become a better dad, a better business owner, what would be a better partner for somebody. And then 10 months later, my ex-wife and I got remarried. We got back together. We're going on 5+ years now, just bought another house together. Like it's seriously an incredible, cool thing because we both, while we were separated, we were simultaneously but individually doing this work weirdly and collided back together. And I hated her guts, by the way. It's so weird. Like I was like, I hate this woman. It wasn't like this was even on the docket.
Wow.
And it created this cool thing. And so that shift has got my family back together. It's allowed me to come to what I do now from a place of pure understanding, like divorce stuff, parenting stuff, foster care, business, sports, coaching, all these things, because I don't believe you should be teaching people how to run the race until you've crossed some finish lines. And I was running the race and I was like, hey, take a left here. And I go, oh, I should have took a right, you know? So like I just got to the point of crossing it. Now I can look back and go, yeah, you know what? That was the wrong turn. Like I shouldn't have done that. So, hey, you should probably take a different turn. But I can do that now because I've gone through and solved a lot of these things in my life. And so that was for me, the most important shift, because none of this matters if I don't have a home to go home to, and your home is your people.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's so inspiring for me and hopefully for all of you watching, that it doesn't matter where you're at right now. It doesn't matter whether circumstances happen to you or it's been your own choices that have led you to a place that you maybe not proud of or not excited about. But no matter where you're sitting, there is this opportunity for you to redefine and then reinvent your life through an identity shift. Of course, that's the name of Anthony's book. You can check that out. Click in the top left, follow him if you're not. Man, so inspiring to have you. Thank you for being here. And Madison, why don't you wrap us up and send us off?
Absolutely. Well, Anthony, first of all, thank you for being here, but thank you for being so candid, because I think a lot of people share all the really positive, great, feel-good stories, you know, and I think transparency is where we can learn the most. And I think our audience really appreciated that. So thank you again for that and for coming on.
Welcome.
Guys, if you're not following Anthony and Rory, you can click right up here in the left corner and follow them both. They both have like awesome content, honestly. So make sure that you're doing that and check out Anthony's book, The Identity Shift. But thank you, Anthony. I hope we have you back here in success soon. And until then,
Anytime.
see you next time.
All right. See y'all. Thanks,
See
Anthony.
everybody.
Bye.
Welcome.
All right, Rory.
Wow. Wow, Madison. That's inspiring. I think the part at the very end was super unexpected. Him sharing his personal story.
It was, but you know, I mean, and I mentioned this just a few seconds ago, I think transparency and being candid about those parts of your life is so important, because a lot of times we internalize that stuff because of shame, right? We don't share it. But especially for people who have platforms like Anthony, that's some of the stuff we can learn the most from. So I'm really happy that he felt comfortable enough to share that with our audience.
Yeah, that actually, when you said that, that was one of my big takeaways from today was there's so much to learn from transparency. And I think it's really true, especially when you see someone like Anthony who's, you know, on TV and got a bunch of followers and all that sort of stuff. It's really easy. It's almost natural to go, that person doesn't understand what it's like to be me. Like that person's never gone through what I've gone through. And the reality is that most of the people that are like that and get to those places they are where they are because they've gone through the stuff that we're all experiencing and going through. So I thought that was super cool. Probably one of my other favorite takeaways was just this idea of just normalizing, of just going, you can level up, and at first it's going to feel, like you're a fish out of water because you've leveled up, you're in a different environment, but like you will normalize to it. And I think that's so true, but it's not so obvious when applied to our life, to just go, and it, you become accustomed to making a certain level of impact, a certain amount of money, a certain speed, handling problems, dealing with certain things. And I don't know, that's just encouraging, because I think a lot of times, at least for me, I feel like I'm maximized, and it's like there's no way I could go to another level. Like I'm already maxed. And yet there's comfort in knowing, no, once you push through, it actually will stabilize. That was huge for me.
No, I thought that was awesome. And I really also like when he mentioned, like, there's a lot of power in things that we tell ourselves about ourselves. There's like our identity in that way. And when he was talking about how the circle, the graphic that he showed us, right? And how it could be something as simple, this is how I took it, is if you tell yourself, I'm always late. I'm Madison and I'm always late. I'm never on time, then, you start getting ready 20 minutes later than you should every time you need to be somewhere. And then you always show up late. And then other people say, oh, Madison's always late. And then it just becomes you are. And that's just a trivial example, right? I know that there are a lot of other bigger impacted ways, in the things that we tell ourselves. But I think that the way he can step outside of that and make a shift and just say something as simple as, actually, I'm Madison, I'm always on time. And just like shifting that mindset can really change the way that you operate and the way that you do things.
I know. And it's interesting how your life automatically aligns with whichever version you say. It's like you could say, I'm always late or I'm always on time, but like your life will automatically align itself to kind of prove yourself right. Like he was talking about proof. You start to notice proof, you do things, and it's just like your life will align to whichever. So choose your identity carefully. So anyways, a great episode. I'm so glad that we were able to connect. I didn't know him. I met him through you and success and everything. So thanks for helping making that happen and for having me.
Of course. No, we love Anthony here at Success. He's got a ton of great content and videos on our social platforms, on our website. I think he was even on Success Stories with Kendra Hall at one point. So we love bringing him on whenever we can. So thanks for bringing him on with me, Rory, and love being here in the Success Room. Can't wait for next week.
All right, y'all. See you next Thursday. Bye.